Peter broke the story about Tom Brady with the contract extension and perception, reality, taking one for the team, took a little less. Peter King joining us now to sort through that. What is the reality of this with Brady's contract, Pete?
Well, the reality is that by doing this deal, he enabled them to save $8 million this year on the cap and $7 million next year. So they're going to be able to be players in free agency, whereas they wouldn't have been. As for the future, the last time he signed a vastly under-market deal like this one, midway through it, the Patriots handed him a $5.2 million bonus that addressed how well he was playing at the time, but it didn't revolutionize the contract. And I think that to say that the Patriots in 2015, if Brady plays well, are going to rip this up and pay him $23 million a year, I'd be shocked if that happened, because then this would clearly have been a phony ruse. And the last time Brady did this, over a 5-year period, the only money that was added was $5 million, which I could see him throwing him maybe $5 or $10 million at some point in the last 3 years of the contract. But I doubt it'd be a lot more than that.
But is this more about re-signing current players or being a player in free agency?
Oh, who knows? I mean, they can go. They have so many options. I mean, they could sign Vollmer back, to basically stabilize them at tackle. They could re-sign Welker, or they could go out and get Dwight Freeney. So, I don't know. Anybody who says they know what the Patriots are doing in free agency is living in Bill Belichick's house. I mean, I don't know what they're going to do.
What about Wes Welker and his future there? He turns 32 before the start of the season.
There's been speculation, obviously, that Welker could be one of the guys who Brady said, "Look, if I do this, I want you to re-sign Welker." Now, I don't know if that happened or not, but I think this clearly improves his chances to sign with the Patriots, no question about it. I think the other issue would be, maybe the Patriots also are looking at this and saying, why don't we go spend the money and sign a real wide receiver? Go get like Mike Wallace. No, not real. I don't mean that about Welker, but I mean a real long-term wide receiver, like a Mike Wallace. So, I think those are the questions that are going to be answered in the first couple of days of free agents.
How does this affect other quarterbacks in their negotiations? Aaron Rodgers, Joe Flacco currently involved in that. Does anybody follow suit?
If you put the franchise tag on any guy, or if you put that exclusive rights franchise tag, it's based on the average salary of the top quarterbacks. So clearly, if Brady had done a $22 million deal, that was going to help him. For Brady to do this deal, it doesn't help him. So, this is one less brick in the wall for the franchise number to increase in value. As far as, the Ravens saying to Flacco, see, Brady took this, you've got to take this, or you got to take something closer to that than $20 million a year, I doubt that's going to work. The Ravens already last year offered Flacco, whatever the number is, somewhere around $16 to $17 million a year. And it would be bizarre to me if, now that he's won a Super Bowl and was the Super Bowl MVP, that he would even consider taking anything less than that, or even that itself. So I doubt it's going to affect it very much, but it could affect it if that factors into a lower franchise number.
He's Peter King from Sports Illustrated, also NBC, joining us, Dan Patrick Show. I saw one of your tweets earlier about you breaking the story, but other people taking credit for it. You normally don't react this way. Why did it rub you?
Well, I just got a little bit ticked off, Dan. I'm not going to come on here and mention any names, but I just got a little bit ticked off. I think there were some people who were writing the story like they knew it all along, or that they are the ones who got told this, and so they said, yeah, according to sources. Well, at 4:15 yesterday afternoon, I laid out the entire story, and every number in there was all in the story. And the bottom line is, I just went to journalism school and was told that if you ever use anything out of somebody else's story of any substance, that you ought to attribute it. And so that's why I was a little bit ticked off at some of these people who apparently must have had better sources just 5 minutes later than me.
All you got to do is say sources, and you can get away with this stuff.
Yeah. Well, except, and I, hey, look, I use them all the time, except if somebody else has everything down. I don't care if 5 minutes before that you knew everything. If you get beat on the story, you can't say my sources say. Well, that it doesn't work that way. It's already been reported, so you can't act like it was your story. I'm just 5 minutes later. It just doesn't work that way in the real world.
A couple of things I want to ask you. Were you at the Combine? Have you been at the Combine?
I was there over the weekend.
What's a better story or more interesting story now with Honey Badger and Manti Te'o? And the reason why I say this is sometimes we in the media, we fall in love with stories because we can tell these stories and get more eyeballs or clicks or whatever it is. They may not be the most important stories, but Te'o with the 40 and off the field, Honey Badger now coming back. Which one's more interesting?
I think Te'o's more interesting because somebody's going to take him in the first round. I'd be shocked if the Honey Badger went anywhere near where Te'o goes. And look, it's gonna come down to this. I think people are going to have to decide whether a guy who was naive and gullible and then was embarrassed and ashamed about it and so lied about something, I think people are going to have to decide whether that should knock a guy out, whether maybe he's lived too sheltered an existence or whatever, if that should knock him out of being picked high. And I really don't think it should. I think you ought to look at the Alabama game tape. If you're going to knock the guy, knock him for not playing well in that game or not playing well in whatever other game. But there's enough people in the league who like him, Dan, and I think he's going to get picked somewhere probably. I mean, at the latest, I think he'd get picked in the 20s. But
I still look at the Combine and all these numbers, and they don't mean much to me.
I agree.
But we're going to put a whole lot of emphasis on a 4.8 40 for Manti Te'o. Should we?
I'm not sure that we are going to put a lot of emphasis. We are today and yesterday. It's a big story because he ran slower than what everybody thought he would run. But I keep coming back to this. Somebody's 40 time in the Combine is not going to make somebody not draft him. Now, if he goes to his on-campus workout and runs a 4.91 and is unimpressive and other things happen, they'll change their grade. But I just don't think a lot of teams look at Manti Te'o running a 4.81 and say, well, he's off our board. In fact, I know they don't. It's a factor, but there are 100 factors.
The other thing is Alex Smith, that it was reported that a deal essentially was done but not announced. And I don't know, for some reason I just didn't buy into it. It sounded too vague for me, and it sounded like maybe let's up the ante or let's get a couple of bidders here.
Yeah.
I mean, Alex Smith may end up with Kansas City. It just seemed like it was floating out there, and I didn't put much credence into it. Am I wrong?
I think he's going to get traded, and I think he's probably going to get traded to Kansas City. I don't have any knowledge that it's done, Dan, but I would believe the story. I think Jason Luckenfor was the first to report it on Sunday, and I would believe it. Now, I don't put this by them that maybe they did something to basically say to every other team, if you want them, come on, we got a deal. It's almost done. You better come and get them.
Yeah.
I don't deny that, but I think the upshot of it is that there definitely is going to be a deal done, and I think it'll be announced right as soon as the league year begins in a couple of weeks. It makes too much sense to happen and to happen quickly so teams can go about their business.
My sources tell me that you broke the story on Tom Brady, and I want to credit you for that, Peter.
Well, you're a swell guy, Dan.
Now, I've been known to lift some things from the Monday morning quarterback, of course, but only with McLovin's approval.
And rightfully so.
Thank you, Pete. We appreciate you joining us.
All right.
All right.
Take care, Dan.
Peter King, Sports Illustrated, Monday morning quarterback. Got a little feisty there.